And good afternoon. You're listening to Ken Hudnall. This is the Ken Hudnall Show. Coming to you from our studios right here in exciting El Paso, Texas. Gateway to the Old West and the most haunted city in the country. Well, today's April the 8th, 98th day of this new year. Just 267 days remain to the year's over with. Holidays and observances. It's National Healthy Schools Day. Celebrates the work it takes to make schools healthier places for students and educators and staff. Draw a picture of a bird day, International Pageant Day, International Day of Pink. Now, I was asked to abbreviate all the celebrations since there's so many on every day. I'll turn to see what stories we have in the news. President Trump agreed to a 2-week ceasefire if Iran opens up the Strait of Hormuz. He announced that based on conversations with Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Field Marshal Hashim Munir to delay the bombing and attack of Iran for 2 weeks. He said that decision came after the leaders requested the U.S. hold off the destructive force being sent tonight against Iran. He had previously threatened he was going to start bombing the place at 8 p.m. Eastern Time if a deal hadn't been reached. So, he said the postponement's subject to the Islamic Republic of Iran agreeing to the complete, immediate, and safe opening of the Strait of Hormuz. We'll see if that continues. Well, Athena Strand photo shows her last deadly ride with a FedEx driver who admitted he killed a girl during Christmas delivery. This photo shows 7-year-old Athena Strand moments before prosecutors say she was driven to her death by a FedEx driver who abducted and killed her while delivering her Christmas present. This picture, released by prosecutors on Tuesday, showed the girl standing behind Tanner Horner on the day she was strangled in Texas, November 2022. It's a black and white photo, and she appears visibly uneasy as Horner focused on the road ahead. Eric Swalwell's campaign rejects the outrageous allegations of sexual misconduct as a Democratic activist issued a viral warning. The California gubernatorial candidate, Representative Eric Swalwell, Democratic California, campaign broke their silence on allegations circulated by Cheyenne Hunt, a former Capitol Hill staffer and political media personality, fiercely denying any sexual conduct or misconduct toward the former staffer or interns. This false, outrageous rumor has been spread 27 days before an election begins by failing opponents who've sadly teamed up with MAGA conspiracy theorists because they know Eric Swalwell's the front runner in this race, according to Micah Beasley, a spokesperson for Swalwell. Hunt, who now runs a youth political engagement group called Generation Gen Z for Change, left-leaning group, began highlighting accusations that Swalwell had a practice of making sexual advances toward women on his staff last week. Democratic candidate currently leading in the California governor's race has a known history of being predatory toward women, according to Hunt. Hunt showed the image of a message sent to her through a private message. It said, Eric Swalwell has slept with many of his interns and makes them all sign non-disclosure agreements so they don't speak up. And according to the quote, when the person that sent it was 19, he tried hitting on her and sliding into her DMs. But since posting her original video detailing Swalwell's alleged advances, Hunt says she's been contacted by a number of other women sharing similar experiences. Well, the California race is going to be a barn burner, no question about that. Well, Patriots coach Mike Vrabel responds after photos with New York Times NFL reporter leak shows him in New York Times and athletic NFL reporter Diane Rossini in bathing suits by a pool. The photos, originally published by the New York Post page 6, also shows the coach and the journalist holding hands and hugging on the roof of a resort bungalow in Sedona, Arizona. According to Vrabel, these photos show a completely innocent interaction. Any suggestion otherwise is laughable. This didn't deserve any further comment. But it does raise questions, no question about that. Well, according to Jonathan Turley, a blue state's latest attack on free speech is awful and sneaky as well. Colorado's tourism slogan, "It's Our Nature," is a menacing meaning for free speech advocates. Colorado is now arguably the most anti-free speech state in the union, pushing an array of measures attacking those with opposing social and political views. The irony is that the state has proved a bonanza for free speech with spectacular legal failures that reaffirmed rather than restricted the First Amendment. Now the Democratic legislature and governor are back with new unconstitutional measures, including a requirement that lawyers not share information with federal immigration officials as a condition for filing with the state courts. They seem to be going a little bit overboard. Well, ICE arrested 13 after a tip on truck drivers in Pennsylvania's DMW sparks a chaotic scene. Armstrong County Sheriff Frank Pitzer said multiple people fled federal agents and abandoned vehicles in the street during a chaotic scene outside a Penn DOT licensing center near Katanning, Pennsylvania, where more than a dozen illegal immigrants were ultimately arrested. Went even as far as people exiting their vehicles and abandoning them on the street, according to Pitzer. Authorities said the incident followed tips from the public reporting numerous suspected immigrant drivers, many operating tractor trailers outside the West Katanning Driver's License Center. One witness told Fox News he contacted DHS and filmed the scene Friday morning after noticing an unusual amount of people gathered outside that facility. Pitzer said he received reports that multiple individuals attempted to flee when agents arrived, as eyewitness accounts described a brief chaos in the area. It does help to be able to read English to be a tractor-trailer driver. Well, Minneapolis considers legalizing adult bathhouses and venues that allow sexual activity. Minneapolis City Council is prepared to consider legalizing and regulating venues such as bathhouses where consenting adults can engage in sexual activity, possibly reversing the city's 38-year ban. The ordinances in question would remove stigmatizing language and add new definitions to be inclusive of establishments where sexual activity between consenting adults may be facilitated. The outlet noted that bathhouses, I'm talking about the Minnesota Star Tribune, noted that bathhouses and sex clubs operated in the city until a 1988 ordinance banned businesses that facilitate high-risk sexual conduct. That was defined as fellatio and intercourse and vaginal intercourse for pay. Well, we'll see if that does come to pass. Well, an American couple chasing a retirement dream in the Bahamas, boating mystery, were inexperienced, according to a friend. Hopetown, Bahamas. American woman went missing in the Bahamas after her husband said she fell off a small boat, had been living out her retirement dream of sailing when tragedy took place. That's according to a friend. Along the way, the couple had been building a social media following and forging connections across the country. Lynette Hooker, 55, and her husband, Brian Hooker, 58, left Hopetown's Abaco Inn at about 7:30 p.m. on Saturday, 4 minutes after the sunset that night, on a small boat headed to their yacht at Elbow Cay, according to Bahamian officials. Brian Hooker reportedly told officials while the couple were on that small boat known as a dinghy, Lynette fell in the water with the ignition key, causing the engine to shut off. The current carried her away, according to Brian, who paddled back to a marina at Marsh Harbor. reported Lynette missing at about 4 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. John Waters, who's friends with the couple, told Fox News he met Lynette at and Brian at an oyster bar in Panama City Beach, Florida in 2023. He said the couple are on a journey around the Gulf of America. Well, a Trump-backed Republican pads the GOP's fragile House majority by winning a showdown for Marjorie Taylor Greene's former seat. The story is from Ringgold, Georgia. Republican congressional candidate Clay Fuller just gave House Speaker Mike Johnson a little bit of breathing room as the GOP clings to a razor-thin majority in Congress. He was backed by President Trump on Tuesday, and he defeated Democrat Sean Harris in a special election to fill the empty U.S. House seat in Georgia's solidly red 14th congressional district. He was the difference maker, according to what Fuller told Fox News Digital. As he pointed to President Trump, he was the key factor in Fuller winning. Results prove President Trump means a ton in Georgia 14th district. So it was a vacant MAGA firebrand Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene stepped down at the beginning of January. She quit Congress with a year left in her term after a bitter falling out with President Trump. Well, let's see if he can hold on to that majority. An A-10 Warthog gives new maritime role targeting boats in Iran after efforts to retire the aircraft. The A-10 Warthog has a new maritime role in targeting boats in the war in Iran that could extend the life of the aircraft, which the U.S. Air Force has been attempting to retire for years. It's not the sleek, good-looking aircraft that a lot of the pilots like to fly. Despite the Air Force trying to phase out the A-10, Congress has resisted its efforts and blocked attempts to reduce the number of these aircraft. A-10 has been used by the U.S. military campaign against Iran as the Pentagon sees a need for an aircraft that can loiter and deliver accurate fire against small boats and coastal threats. During a Pentagon briefing last month, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff General Dan Kane said that the A-10 aircraft were in the fight and operating across the southern flank of the conflict, including targeting Iranian boats in the Strait of Hormuz. Well, Kylie Jenner has dazzled in a daring white string bikini for a series of poolside photos. She's been described as hydrated and glowing as she flaunts her bikini body on Instagram. Just after Easter weekend, she uploaded several images of herself in a white string bikini and a chrome hearts waist chain, lounging poolside. It appears to be a promo for her new electrolyte packets, which she was holding in several of the images. Her mother, Kris Jenner, was among thousands of comments praising the 28-year-old's on her post. Well, Kansas City Chiefs heiress Gracie Hunt has announced her engagement to the son of the team's former quarterback. She's the daughter of Kansas City Chiefs owner Clark Hunt. She posted a photo collage of her engagement to Derek Green, the son of former Chiefs quarterback Trent Green. The couple wrote in a collaboration Instagram post, "It was always you." Got posted emojis of a ring and a red heart and an infinity sign. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Romans 8, chapter 8, verse 28. Couple posted 14 photos, including one of Green on a knee in front of a crying Hunt, a close-up of the ring, a photo of Green and Clark Hunt shaking hands, and both mothers taking photos of the occasion. Well, liberals tightened their grip on the battleground state Supreme Court in a low-key but high-stakes election. Liberals expanded their majority on the Wisconsin Supreme Court in an election on Tuesday, strengthening control in a key battleground state. And a ballot box showdown that grew limited national attention but had plenty riding on the results. Wisconsin Appeals Court Judge Chris Taylor, former Democratic state representative, defeated Appeals Court Judge Maria Lazar, a conservative, according to the Associated Press. Taylor will succeed a retiring conservative justice, and with the victory, liberals will expand their majority on the state Supreme Court to 5-2. While officially a nonpartisan contest, state Supreme Court elections in Wisconsin have become extremely partisan in recent election cycles. Well, this whole thing where politics is more important than anything else is becoming old. Well, AOC has told the troops to refuse illegal orders ahead of Trump's looming Iran deadline. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Democrat of New York, urged U.S. service members to refuse illegal orders Tuesday after President Trump threatened to wipe out Iran's civilization. She wrote in response to Trump's Truth Social post, the president's mental facilities are collapsing and can't be trusted. To every individual in the president's chain of command, you have a duty to refuse illegal orders, and these include carrying out this threat. Now, I don't know about AOC or any of her other cronies, but from my time in the military, refusing an order, illegal or not, carried with it quite a risk. And I don't think she'd know legal from illegal if it walked up and bit her. Well, a Massachusetts mother offered to admit killing 3 children as prosecutors pushed back on a move that could allow her to dodge prison. She's accused of strangling her 3 young children, and she's offering to formally admit she killed them in a dramatic legal move that could shift the focus of her trial to her mental state, potentially keep her out of prison. Lindsay Clancy, who was a Duxbury labor and delivery nurse, is willing to formally admit in writing to her role in the killings, according to a new motion filed by defense attorney Kevin Reddington. The filing, obtained by WCVB5, comes just 1 week after a judge denied her request to split her trial into separate phases that would divide the question of whether she committed the acts from her mental state at the time. And asking the court to reconsider, Reddington argued that Clancy's admission would leave her mental condition as a central issue for a jury to decide. Filing states she's willing to formally acknowledge her involvement in the conduct that led to the deaths of her 3 children. Well, if I was sitting on the jury, admitting that she killed them wouldn't leave much choice in my mind. The Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes Steakhouse has been blasted over a $650 dinner. It was called the absolute worst. Kansas City Chiefs stars Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes are drawing attention over their upscale steakhouse. 1587 Prime, after a viral TikTok review that criticized the restaurant. One woman described having a $650 dinner at the Kansas City-based venue, which opened in September 2025, has attracted high-profile guests, including Taylor Swift, who's engaged to Kelce. Woman called it, in her view, the worst fine dining experience I've ever had. Her comments, though, are in stark contrast to others who said they had a positive experience at the venue. TikTok user Nicole Rose, who posted under the handle I'm not even sure how to pronounce that, KNICNACKS, shared a video in mid-March that has since garnered about 600,000 views. In that video, she listed a series of complaints, beginning with what she said was slow drink service and some confusion over the restaurant's tableside martini cart. Well, a Angels slugger fights a former teammate in a wild brawl after an inside pitch. Angels and Braves players got into a wild brawl after a high pitch to Jorge Soler. Los Angeles Angels and the Atlanta Braves got into this frenzied fight on Tuesday night. Incident occurred in the bottom of the 5th inning with 1 out and a runner on first base. Angel slugger Jorge Soler was at the plate, facing off against Braves pitcher Reynaldo Lopez. Lopez threw a pitch high and inside, balling over Jonah Heim's glove, caroomed off the backstop, and Heim was able to recover the ball and fire to second base, try to get the runner stealing second base. Throw was too late, but the fireworks started shortly after that throw. It's a game, folks. We don't need the fights, though they are fun to watch. Well, Artemis 2 astronauts begin the journey home amid a historic lunar mission. They completed their history-making moon mission on Monday, reaching a maximum distance of 252,756 miles away from the Earth and breaking the record set by Apollo 13 in 1970. And the crew's now heading back toward the Earth. Scientists on Earth will look at images and audio and other data the astronauts captured during the lunar flyby. The Artemis 2 crew will discuss their observations with the lunar science team on Tuesday. President Trump radioed the crew after they looped around the moon, praising as modern-day pioneers. Well, it's going to take 4 days for the astronauts to get back home. The capsule aimed for a splashdown in the Pacific near San Diego on April 10th, 9 days after it was launched in Florida. Well, inside the California house of Qasem Soleimani's relatives was some interesting things to see. These pictures were taken after the ICE arrest. Photos obtained by Fox News offer a rare glimpse into the high-end lifestyle of the niece and grandniece of the late Iranian terror mastermind Qasem Soleimani. Hamida Soleimani Afshar, 47, identified as Soleimani's niece and her daughter. Sarah Sadat Hosseini, 25, were taken into custody last week by Immigration and Customs Enforcement after the State Department revoked their green cards, according to an announcement over the weekend from the State Department. Afshar, according to Secretary of State Marco Rubio, has been an outspoken supporter of the Iranian regime. He celebrated attacks on Americans and referred to the U.S. as the Great Satan. Afshar and Hosseini are just a few relatives of Iranian regime clerics and IRGC commanders embedded themselves in the Western society their relatives regularly denounce and fight against. These women are posting in bikinis on yachts and they're wearing V-neck dresses down to their belly buttons. They're wannabe Instagram influencers, all on the blood money that was embezzled and stolen from the Iranian people. And there's thousands of them, not just these two. There's thousands in the U.S. and Canada and in London, according to Sheila Nazarian, who fled Iran as a child. That's according to what Dana Perino on Fox News. Well, AOC has doubled down on her call for President Trump's ouster, even after the ceasefire announcement. The problem I've always had with AOC is even at her exalted location in society, she still acts and thinks like a bartender, which is what she was before her election. She's continued calling for President Trump's ouster on Tuesday, even after the president announced a 2-week ceasefire with Iran. According to what she wrote on X, the statement changes nothing, referring to the president's Tuesday evening ceasefire announcement. Whether by his cabinet or Congress, the president has to be removed from office. And prior to the ceasefire announcement, Trump has been threatening to unleash a devastating attack against Iranian power plants and bridges, sent a warning on a Tuesday morning through social post. He said a whole civilization is going to die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but probably will. However, now we have complete and total regime change where different, smarter, and less radicalized minds prevail. Maybe something revolutionary, wonderful can happen. Who knows? Well, Ocasio-Cortez is a member of that group of lawmakers known as the Squad, responded by declaring in her X post, this is a threat of genocide and merits removal from office. Well, if everybody who has shown idiocy needs to be removed from office, she'd be the first one in the list. Well, let's see. Sabrina Carpenter strips down with Margaret Qualley and Madeline Klein in a provocative new music video. Sabrina Carpenter is a pop star. She's turning up the heat and the controversy with her latest music video. In the official video for House Tour, the 26-year-old singer stripped down alongside a pair of A-list companions, Margaret Qualley, the daughter of Andy McDowell, and Madeline Klein. What started as a glamorous girls' night quickly spiraled as the trio broke into a lavish mansion and unleashed chaos. They stripped down and left little to the imagination there in lingerie. Raided the liquor cabinet, soaked in a bubble bath, stole a Grammy, and cannonballed into a pool, all while looting the house for cash and jewels. Police eventually swarmed the property, but not before the women made a quick escape. Video concluded with Carpenter and Qualley running over a man in her getaway car. Well, the storyline appears to be a nod to the Bling Ring robberies, the infamous string of celebrity home break-ins carried out by fame-obsessed teens. The house tour appeared to be loaded with sexual innuendo, using a home as a not so subtle metaphor. Well, we've been talking about creatures from the shadows. We're going to talk about some more cryptids. You know, people say that creatures like the Bigfoot and the elusive Loch Ness Monster lurk in the uncharted corners of our world. Cryptids, as these creatures are called, are creatures that defy conventional classification. They're reported through sightings and stories, but they elude definitive proof. Enduring mystery raises intriguing questions. And are they remnants of prehistoric eras? Are they undiscovered species, or are they the projections of human fascination? They offer the allure of discovery, whether real or a reflection of collective imagination, and they persist as symbols of a world where mysteries still thrive. Well, we're going to take a closer look at the world of cryptids. Now, lost in the fog of the Pacific Northwest and dark waters of Loch Ness is a world of mysterious creatures waiting to be uncovered. These creatures are known as cryptids, elusive beings that inhabit the boundary between legend and reality. They actually challenge the limits of our understanding. From the infamous Yeti to the eerie Mongolian deathworm, cryptozoology brings together an extraordinary range of creatures and tales. We're going to talk about some of the mysteries of these creatures. Beyond mere stories, cryptozoology represents our endless curiosity and efforts to comprehend the unknown. Now, a cryptid, of course, is loosely defined as a creature reported by witnesses and woven into local legend, but science hadn't verified yet. Described as strange or mysterious animals, cryptids are famous for their puzzling nature and their unconfirmed existence. Some are given names as evocative as they are ironic: Bigfoot, Loch Ness, the Yeti, and I'm sure there are a number of others. And the study of these creatures whose existence remains unproven by mainstream science is known as cryptozoology. Now, several previously dismissed cryptids now have scientific validation. For example, the giant squid, with its terrifying tentacles and reputation as a sea monster in maritime folklore. They weren't verified. The one was photographed in its natural habitat in 2004. And similarly, the Komodo dragon, known to locals but considered too fantastical by early Western explorers, was confirmed as a real species in 1910. So these success stories do offer hope for cryptozoologists. They demonstrate that the line between myth and reality can sometimes be as thin as the pages of a field journal. The coelacanth is a striking example of how nature still holds surprises. This creature was thought to have been extinct for 66 million years. It's known as a living fossil. Unexpectedly rediscovered in 1938 off the coast of East London, South Africa. Its reappearance stunned the scientific community, as the fish had been presumed a casualty of the Cretaceous Paleogene's extinction event. Known only from fossil records, the coelacanth emerged as a real-life survivor from the age of dinosaurs, It since challenged long-held assumptions about extinction. Well, the discovery process began with persistent sightings or consistent reports from locals who are intimately familiar with their environment. While outsiders may dismiss these accounts as fanciful, local knowledge proves invaluable in guiding researchers toward real but elusive species. Many of these creatures are well known to indigenous cultures long before their formal discovery. And dense forests and remote mountains and deep oceans and vast swamps are all highly effective at concealing even large animals. Add the nocturnal habits or naturally wary behavior, and it becomes clear how certain species can evade detection for generations, despite sharing their habitat with humans. Now, it's a fascinating thought that our planet was once a realm dominated by creatures that would seem utterly alien to us today. Talking in this particular case about the dinosaur, those prehistoric giants that roamed the earth for millions of years, leaving behind a legacy of wonder and mystery. And to show you just how bizarre and otherworldly these creatures were, we're going to talk about what I consider the top three. Number one is Tyrannosaurus rex, the apex predator. With its colossal size and formidable jaws and razor-sharp teeth, it was a true terror of its era. Its distinct appearance, featuring tiny arms and an enormous head, make it clear why it remains one of the most iconic of dinosaurs. Then we got the Velociraptor. Though smaller than a T-Rex, it was no less fearsome. Its intelligence and agility and sickle-shaped claws made it a deadly hunter. And these features, combined with the feathered body, are far removed from anything we see in modern animals. And finally, we've got the Spinosaurus. Has a long sail-like spine and crocodile-like jaws. Was a truly unique creature. Its unusual appearance and semi-aquatic lifestyle make it one of the most fascinating dinosaurs ever discovered. And given the diversity of life that existed in the past, it's not unreasonable to wonder whether some of these creatures might have survived, maybe in remote, unexplored parts of the world. And in my wandering around South America years ago, we found things that we had no idea still existed. Let's talk about the platypus, an animal so peculiar that it seems as if Mother Nature cobbled it together during an overly ambitious crafting session. It's got the bill of a duck, the webbed feet of an otter, and the flat tail of a beaver. Looks more like an assemblage of spare parts than a single species. To top it off, this mammal lays eggs, a behavior so unexpected it still raises eyebrows. If it wasn't enough, the males are venomous, equipped with spurs on their hind legs capable of delivering a nasty sting. And as far as creatures go, the platypus feels like a walking contradiction, defying nearly every rule of what a mammal ought to be. When Europeans first encountered the platypus in 1798, their skepticism was, of course, justified. A specimen sent by Australian scientists from a land already renowned for its bewildering animal wonders seemed almost too strange to be real. When they opened the package, British scientists thought they were the victims of a joke. Their theory, some enterprising hoaxer, possibly a mischievous taxidermist, had stitched together parts of various animals to dupe the scientific community. Considering that duck-like bill, their doubt was justified. Well, despite its bizarre appearance, the platypus has gone from being a suspected hoax to one of the most celebrated oddities in the natural world. Over the years, its unique biology has fascinated scientists and lay people. How can a mammal that lays eggs and possesses electroreceptors in its bill to locate prey be anything other than a marvel? While some may find its patchwork appearance odd, the platypus stands as proof that nature has a sense of humor. Sadly, it faces an uncertain future. In the Australian state of Victoria, they're listed as vulnerable, while in South Australia, they're designated as endangered. Kangaroo Island is their only remaining habitat. Well, sometimes what seems like the discovery of a legendary creature turns out to be something far more mundane, or at least something that's explainable. These cases don't involve deliberate hoaxes, but rather misidentification of known animals, objects, or natural phenomena. Excited eyewitnesses armed with a blurry photo, fleeting sightings of in the fading light, can unknowingly transform a perfectly ordinary encounter into something extraordinary. But these cases no less intriguing for their lack of mystery. Take, for example, reports of colossal beasts seen lurking in forest or strange shapes seen darting through the water. Many of these sightings stem from encounters with real animals behaving in unexpected ways. An otter can be mistaken for a serpentine lake monster, or a bear standing upright can appear almost human. These scenarios may disappoint those hoping for Nessie or Bigfoot, but they also highlight how nature can fool us with its uncanny mimicry. When people hear local tales or see sensationalized accounts in the media, they become more inclined to interpret their own experience as evidence of the same phenomena. This psychological effect, known as confirmation bias, leads individuals to view ordinary events through the lenses of these sensational stories. Then you throw in a dose of exaggeration or misremembering, and you have the ingredients for a convincing cryptid story. Sometimes these tales endure long enough to draw scientific interest before their true origins are uncovered. Rods, also known as skyfish or air rods, are entities that fit the bill perfectly. Footage of these creatures was first recorded in Roswell, New Mexico during the 1990 UFO filming by Jose Escamilla. This discovery seemed groundbreaking. It was potential proof of a strange new life form or perhaps extraterrestrial beings. Video depicted elongated rod-like shapes with undulating wings moving swiftly through the air, glowing faintly in the low light. Kind of spectacle that makes you wonder whether the truth really was out there. Well, let's talk about the Zuyo Maru carcass. The high seas are no stranger to tall tales and oddities, but a few have stirred the imagination, like the discovery made by the Japanese trawler Zuyo Maru in 1977. Began as an ordinary fishing trip off the coast of New Zealand. It ended with the crew hauling up a stinking, unidentified carcass that quickly sparked a media frenzy. For a brief moment, it seemed as if a prehistoric creature had emerged from the depth, either to make a dramatic return or simply to spoil a good haul of mackerel. April 25th, 1977, the Zuyo Maru was trawling in the waters east of the Christchurch, New Zealand. What should have been another routine day of hauling nets turned into something altogether stranger when the crew retrieved what can only be described as a nightmare ensnared in their fishing nets. This creature, or what remained of it, was enormous, measuring about 10 meters in length and weighing over 1,800 kilograms. Its long neck, paired with 4 reddish fins, gave it the unsettling appearance of an aquatic dinosaur. Its tail stretched nearly 2 meters. Its head is little more than an indistinct, flesh-covered mass. The absence of a dorsal fin only deepened the mystery. So you can imagine the scene on board the trawler. The crew now faced a decaying monstrosity that looked as though a Jurassic period had accidentally spilled into modern waters. Captain Akira Tanaka ordered the remains to be photographed and sampled, a task likely expedited by the overpowering stench. The crew, understandably, nicknamed the creature Nessie after Scottish infamous Loch Ness monster. The name seemed fitting. An aquatic beast with prehistoric vibes was precisely the kind of story the newspapers carried and wanted. When the photographs made their way back to shore, pandemonium ensued. After being hoisted onto the deck, documented and briefly admired, although from a safe distance, carcass was unceremoniously returned to the sea. It stunk, don't you know? The photos and tissue samples sparked intense interest among scientists both in Japan and abroad. The question was asked numerous times, could this be a living plesiosaur? Was it proof that some ancient creatures had survived extinction? Was it something less exotic but no less revolting? Cryptozoologists have proposed theories ranging from sea serpents to undiscovered species. And for a time, the plesiosaur hypothesis gained traction. The long neck and lack of a dorsal fin bore a striking resemblance to artistic depictions of these ancient maritime reptiles. However, the calm reasoning of marine biologists and the power of advanced microscopes soon triumphed. Analysis of the tissue samples revealed the remains were not a prehistoric monster, but rather a basking shark. When basking sharks decompose, they lose their lower jaws, their dorsal fins, and tail sections first. This natural process creates a dinosaur-like silhouette that has fooled many fishermen over the years. The reddish fins were likely decayed muscle, and the size of the carcass matched that of a typical basking shark. Cryptozoologist's revelation was a bitter disappointment. Marine biologists, however, saw it as a classic example of how the ocean and its inhabitants can deceive the human imagination. Well, the world of cryptozoology is a curious place filled with tales of shadowy creatures prowling the edges of our imagination. But for every alleged sighting, there's a hoaxer with a wicked grin and far too much free time. Such convincing deceptions can trick even the most scientifically minded individual. And a proper cryptid hoax is not thrown together willy-nilly. It requires planning and execution and a flair for drama. Whether like amateur theater, but with less applause and more skepticism. And hoaxers do employ a variety of tactics, including fake evidence, such as realistic-looking footprints stamped into the soft earth using carved wooden blocks. That's a favorite one. Basic tools and a surplus of misplaced ambition can achieve astonishing results. Of course, they immediately claim they saw with their own eyes. And they say it with all the conviction of somebody describing their lottery win moments before asking for a loan. And there are grainy photos of vaguely blob-shaped figures and crudely crafted models thrown into murky water. And, frankly, the blurrier the image, the more authentic it seems. So why did he do it? Well, hoaxers are driven by motives ranging from greed to giggles. And there are a number of common reasons, don't you know? Few things loosen purse strings like a good mystery. Tourists flock and books sell and local businesses thrive on the buzz, and everybody wins except the gullible. They do it for fame and notoriety. Some people crave attention. Maybe they missed out on the school talent show or found their witty anecdotes ignored at dinner parties. Then, of course, mischief is involved. For some, the joy lies in the prank itself. Others find a certain thrill in imagining scientists scratching their heads over a plaster footprint. I mean, let's face it, folks. People are strange. And occasionally, hoaxes serve a cause. A fabricated cryptid may conveniently reside in an endangered wetland, suddenly attracting public interest in its preservation. In the UK, a massive supermarket chain planned to build a new store on a prime piece of land. But the project came to an abrupt halt when it was discovered that the site was home to the great yellow mining bee. Whatever that might be. Every hoax has its moment in the spotlight, but the truth eventually comes out. Eventually. Enter the skeptics armed with magnifying glasses and logic and a healthy dose of suspicion. Scientists examine the evidence with modern tools like DNA analysis and digital forensics and good old-fashioned common sense, which is in short supply, frankly. The cracks begin to show. For instance, let's look at the infamous surgeon's photo of the Loch Ness Monster. For decades, that photo of a serpent-like head emerging from the Scottish loch was hailed as proof of the existence of Nessie. And in 1994, it was revealed to be a staged photo created with a toy submarine and some plastic. Seemed even mythical beasts need a decent prop department. Ray Wallace, a U.S. construction worker, made giant wooden feet to create fake Bigfoot tracks. After his death, his family revealed his antics, confirming him as the father of Bigfoot hoaxes. One relative even commented, "We always knew Uncle Ray was crafty. We didn't think he'd fool the entire country." And in 2008, 2 men from Georgia found a Bigfoot corpse in a freezer. Now, the details are somewhat scanty. Journalists and cryptozoologists float to see the frozen body, only to discover it was a rubber gorilla suit stuffed with offal. When I asked why they did it, one hoaxer just shrugged and said, "We thought it'd be funny." Once debunked, cryptid hoaxes tend to leave a bittersweet legacy. There's the amusement of uncovering the ruse, coupled with a tinge of disappointment for those who had hoped the mystery was real. Luckily, despite the exposure of countless hoaxers, our fascination with cryptids remains unshaken. After all, the unknown is far more exciting than the known. And if a few pranksters want to keep us guessing, who are we to begrudge them their fun? At the very least, they give us something to talk about. The lesson here is don't believe everything you hear, at least without giving it some thought first. Let's talk about the Fiji mermaid hoax. That was a fishy tale that had some monkey business involved. The legend of the Fiji mermaid continues to captivate and horrify even today. In the 19th century, this macabre sideshow attraction lured audiences with promises of wonder and amazement. But instead of encountering a mythical being from the depths of the ocean, viewers were met with something far less enchanting. A creature that could only be described as repulsive. Legend says a Japanese fisherman caught the Fiji mermaid in the early 1800s. Then it came into the possession of an American sea captain by the name of Samuel Barrett Eads, regarded as a priceless treasure and spent a fortune to acquire it. And from there it traveled to London, passing through various private collections and oddity shops. And eventually it became the property of a man by the name of P.T. Barnum, wasting no time in showing off his latest acquisition to audiences in New York City. It was his star attraction in 1842. And his backstory was he had captured the mermaid, as this is what he was calling it now, off the coast of Fiji, where locals supposedly believed it to be a mythical creature of wonder and awe. When onlookers laid eyes on the mermaid, they were met with disappointment and disbelief. It was 3 feet long, had a shriveled torso with a very fishy-looking tail, had sunken eyes and sharp teeth and bony frame, gave it the appearance suggesting it had been preserved in formaldehyde for centuries. Looked less like a mermaid and more like something you'd find in a discount bin at a Halloween store. Well, despite his ludicrous appearance, or maybe because of it, Barnum's exhibit was a resounding success. People flocked to see the alleged marvel, paying hefty fees for entry. As doubts began to arise about its authenticity, Barnum doubled down on his claims by fabricating newspaper articles and promoting pseudoscientific theories. Eventually, naturalists examined the specimen and confirmed that what many had suspected, it was a fabrication. The torso came from an orangutan or similar primate. Its tail was constructed from various fish parts. Skin had been shaved and dyed to give it the appearance of age, but for some, the truth was too hard to accept. They clung to the belief that the mermaid was real, unwilling to admit a glorified taxidermist had fooled them. Even after the hoax was exposed, the Fiji mermaid remained a popular attraction. Other showmen attempted to replicate its success by creating their own ridiculous hybrids, but none can match the notoriety of the original. In the 19th century, one could pay 25 cents to enter P.T. Barnum's exhibit and see the infamous Fiji mermaid. Some visitors left feeling disgruntled, like William Harper wrote in his diary. I've been robbed of both my money and my dignity. Others, like a young seamstress by the name of Jane Whitaker, were spellbound by the exhibit. Some might argue her fascination more directed toward the handsome usher working at the museum. Even esteemed naturalist Dr. Thomas Ruggles couldn't resist inspecting the mermaid, later declared an unfortunate offspring of a monkey and a lunatic taxidermist. Fiji mermaids become a macabre symbol of Victorian curiosity. Despite being debunked as a hoax, replicas of this creature can still be found in museums, fairs, and sideshows even today. Peabody Museum of Archaeology and Ethnology at the Harvard University currently houses the original Fiji mermaid. If nothing else, it serves as a reminder of our susceptibility to being manipulated and deceived. I mean, right now, I would say Congress is a prime example of this. They want us to think they're intelligent and they do stupid things. Well, one of my favorites, of course, is the jackalope, an endearingly absurd creature emerged from the dusty plains of the American West, where humor and tall tales are as abundant as tumbleweeds. Now, its birthplace was, in fact, rather unassuming. Conceived not in legend, but in the creative den of two playful siblings, Douglas and Ralph Herrick, who had just so happened to hail from Douglas, Wyoming. As the 1930s unfolded and the Great Depression cast a heavy shadow over the nation, laughter served as a comforting refuge. The Herrick brothers seized on the moment with their artistic panache and playful audacity. They fashioned what would eventually be known as the jackalope by affixing antelope horns to a stuffed jackrabbit. What started off as an amusing trick quickly snowballed into a cultural sensation, enchanting anybody willing to put logic aside for an entertaining tale. Their hometown store became the home of their first jackalope, simple yet popular display. Jackalope exhibit captured both locals and transient visitors who could resist being drawn in by a rabbit, nature's skittish landscaper, sporting antlers like a pint-sized deer. Tourists eagerly purchased postcards featuring this intriguing hybrid creature, and before long the jackalope hopped from anonymity to Western folklore. Narratives about the jackalope became increasingly complex, following the pattern of evolving myths. Some declared that this creature was fiercely territorial, guarding its turf with unexpected aggression. Only those courageous, or perhaps reckless enough to hunt for it under full moonlight, had any hope of success. That was a handy alibi for why nobody ever seemed to present a live specimen. According to some folks, jackalopes and whiskey were a perfect match. Cowboys would allegedly leave out bottles of potent liquor, hoping to coax one to come into view. Interestingly enough, tales of intoxicated jackalopes were plentiful. Gold prospectors claimed they had run into stumbling, combative horned hares. Dealing with sober jackalopes was challenging enough, but an encounter with a drunken one was downright calamitous. Creative antics of the Herrick brothers sparked a wave of imitators. Soon jackalope mounts became a common sight at roadside attractions across the West. Stores and bars and tourist spots started showing these horned rabbits. Shopkeepers relayed the story so convincingly even the doubters found themselves being drawn in. For those inclined toward science, there might be a grain of truth embedded in the jackalope story. Wild rabbits occasionally develop horn-like growths due to the Shope papillomavirus. It results in strange bone-like protrusions on their heads, and these animals, though real, may have been mistaken for mythical creatures, leading to rumors and stories. But the jackalope transcends the simple idea of a rabbit afflicted by a virus. The legend captures the playful spirit inherent in folklore. Let's talk about the legend of the Quasi-Rex, supposed dinosaur-like cryptid lurking in the Congo region. That sparked decades of debate, wonder, and more than a few chuckles. Described as a massive predator, reports claim it measures over 11 meters in length, making it larger than any confirmed theropod species. With its thick, scaly hide, powerful tail, and three-toed feet armed with sharp claws, it sounds like something from the Lost World. Witnesses have described it head as having a bony crest reminiscent of a triceratops. Emerging at dusk under the cover of night, the Quasi-Rex is said to prowl the dense vegetation along the riverbanks of the Congo. It preys on antelopes and buffalo. Its reported aggressiveness adds a touch of danger, and as if being potentially extinct is not enough to keep people at bay. For all its fearsome attributes, though, the creature has a slight credibility problem. There's no evidence one exists. No skin, no bones, not even a blurry photo. One of the most famous episodes in the Quasi-Rex saga dates back to the late 1970s when amateur cryptozoologist Robert Henderson unveiled a set of photographs claiming to show the creature in action. These snapshots featured a striped monitor lizard with its mouth wide open, a Tyrannosaurus-like creature. For a brief moment, the cryptozoological community held its collective breath. Was this the proof they'd been looking for? But unfortunately, the thrill was short-lived. Closer inspection revealed the photographs were faker than a 3-pound note. The striped monitor lizard, for example, had been painted to create its exotic appearance. The supposed Tyrannosaur was, in fact, a sculpture cobbled together from clay and plastic models. To his credit, Henderson had done a commendable job crafting these illusions. Commendable, that is, if one overlooks the bit where he passed them off as genuine. Then we've got the Hodag hoax. It's delighted and bemused people since it first emerged from the Wisconsin wilderness, figuratively, of course, in the late 19th century. The creature, allegedly discovered near Rhinelander, was a beastly chimera of over-the-top imagination. described as a hulking, fearsome creature with oversized horns, glowing eyes, and far too many legs to be considered reasonable. Local tales describe it as a voracious predator with a fondness for small animals and birds. Gene Shepard, a local businessman and self-styled raconteur, was the mastermind behind the hodag. Not wanting to do things by halves, he concocted a scheme to put Rhinelander on the map, literally. Claiming to have captured the mythical beast, he presented a hodag carcass to the public. The spectacle, displayed in all its glory at a local hotel, was a sensation. Townsfolk, soon after that, visitors crowded in to catch a glimpse of the macabre wonder. With the flair of a carnival showman, he drummed up excitement, his spun tale so vivid that disbelief seemed optional. Of course, not everybody was convinced. Enterprising skeptics started asking pesky questions about the authenticity of the carcass. A group of scientists requested to examine the creature. Shepard, fearing his creation would hold up under scrutiny, made a strategic retreat. He admitted the hodag was nothing more than a hoax, cobbled together from wood and animal hide in his imagination. Well, the question becomes at this point, are cryptids real? And if so, which ones are real? Well, it'd be nice to have a definitive list of real cryptids, a catalog of creatures you could tick off like rare birds, but alas, their truth remains elusive. The human inclination to exaggerate or misremember, combined with folklore and hoaxes, adds layers of complexity to the world of cryptids. Despite this, the tantalizing possibility that some of these creatures might actually exist continues to capture our imagination. If I had to put any bet on it, I'd wager that some of the creatures we've been talking about might in their strange, unexpected ways be real. Not every cryptid is going to emerge from the shadows with a scientific name, but nature has a habit of surprising us. Time and time again, animals thought to be pure myth have turned out to be very much alive. Maybe a creature once written off as legend is hiding where we have yet to look. Or a species once misidentified has evaded our grasp. Let's talk about the okapi, or the African unicorn. Once a creature of mystery and legend. It wasn't until 1901 that Sir Harry Johnston discovered this elusive animal and sent its skeleton and skin to the British Museum. This find led to the okapi being officially classified as a new species. In 1917, two young girls, Elsie Wright and Frances Griffiths, produced a photograph of fairies said to have been taken in a wooded area near Cottingley in England. The photos caused worldwide sensation, with many people believing their existence. But in 1980, Elsie Wright admitted the photos were a hoax created using cardboard cutouts and careful lighting. And finally, in 1869, a giant petrified man was found in Cardiff, New York, drawing crowds eager to see the supposed relic from a prehistoric era. Later revealed the giant was actually a carved block of gypsum, created as a hoax by a group of businessmen. Well, on that note, we come to the end of today's show. We'll be talking about more cryptids and cryptozoology in tomorrow's show. Until then, this is Ken Hudnall for the Ken Hudnall Show, saying have a truly great evening. And if you hear something strange outside your window, carefully look at it. It may be a strange creature you've never seen before. Or it might be something evil, such as your mother-in-law.